because I didn't want to, send this review out like right after I had watched it. I also wanted to give myself time to sort of mull over what I had seen. And by the title of this, you already know that it's about the Captain Marvel film that came out. Uh, I feel like, and I've said this with to several other people regarding Marvel and their final stage for their 10 plus year whatever they had going on thing, that the last couple of films that they've made have just been really poorly done, just like cash grabs. Now, I understand on a side note that this film has to be connected with, I guess, Infinity War Endgame or Avengers Endgame, whatever. And you've got Captain Marvel sort of like the pre before any of this happened. She's the reason why, if you watch the film, the reason why the Avengers initiative gets started. And watching the film seemed to me more of a chore than anything else. I didn't enjoy it for several reasons. The story itself wasn't very bad, but it just wasn't on par with the other Marvel films. Now, what I believe that Marvel Studios was trying to do with this film was sort of make it the Marvel version of Wonder Woman, women empowerment, and all of this stuff. Congratulations, whatever. They had it come out on Women's Day, so they were that's what they were trying to do, and it came off as really fucking cheesy because the amount of pro women stuff, that was being thrown into it, the fact that it came out on Women's Day sort of retracted from like it wasn't very genuine. I didn't feel like it was genuine. I didn't feel like they actually cared that the fact that like this is supposed to be an empowering film, the way that Wonder Woman was or supposedly was, and it just made it really cheesy. Speaking of cheesy, the jokes, there were a lot of jokes, so much that my brother who loves comedy was all like, "Is this movie like trying too hard to be funny?" And I was like, "Thank you." There were so many jokes in that film that just weren't hitting. They were just bad, y'all. They were just boring. I didn't care for them. They weren't funny. And so since this film was taking place back in the early 90s, they had a lot of technology jokes, a lot of callbacks like Blockbuster and all sorts of stuff. And the audience, I think, the first couple of times was like, yeah, nostalgia. But after that, people were like, I don't give a fuck. Like, stop making time jokes. We don't care anymore. This movie is 2 hours and like 10 minutes long. To be making a time joke at like the hour and 47-minute mark, it's over. That dead horse, you just beaten it. It's gone. It's over. Just stop. But they kept on doing it, and it was just wasn't funny. Uh, you also have the villains in this film. You knew who the villains were the moment they mentioned Ronan, because Ronan was the villain from Guardians of the Galaxy. So it didn't really make much sense for the shape shifting people to be labeled as villains the entire movie. Like it's their fault. They're the bad guys. When the audience, having seen Guardians of the Galaxy most likely, knows that that's not true. And for them to have like this whole like conversation about why they're not villains and what this is doing and what that's doing and who they're working for and who they're not working for, and it was just about 20 minutes worth of I don't give a fuck. We already know this. We've already seen this. And I don't know. I just felt like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm leaning on the court. I just felt like I didn't care. Like there was a bunch of I don't give a fuck in this movie. Like come on, there was a lot of time wasting, and I'm glad you thought it was good, Cam the scam. I'm glad someone thought it was good. I personally didn't like it. There was a lot of backstory naturally because this is the first time we've heard of Captain Marvel, but it was spread out along the entire movie. It was a mystery because she didn't have her memory. It was sort of a mystery about who she was, and they had spread it out so far. My opinion, the first act should have been about her realizing that she had lost her memory. The second act should have been about her figuring out who she was, and then the third act should have been, you know what, let's get the shit done. But that's not how it happened. The third act was of what I just said, and then the other half of a bunch of CGI fighting, and it was really bad. The choreography for this film was really poor. It moved too quickly. The fight scenes were really like in really dark areas, and it was just not good. My brother was like, this it was all a bunch of her blasting people. That's it. I'm like, yes, it was. But when she wasn't blasting people, she was using all these like fight moves that you really couldn't see because it was the shading of the camera was just too dark. The screen was just too dark, and they were just moving too fast. So it's blast, blast, blur, blast, blast, blur. And then whenever she figured out how to unlock her full powers and she's flying around, it's a bunch of CGI bullshit. And then she's literally like a fucking crayon. She's literally like a fucking like crayon flying around. And it was just, I thought it was just dumb. It was just really stupid. And people are going crazy for this film. My brother was like, how did this film get rated so highly? Marvel owns Rotten Tomatoes. Not Marvel. Disney owns Rotten Tomatoes. That's why I'm gonna stop looking at the hero movie scores on Rotten Tomatoes and just go and watch them because, in my opinion, I would watch Aquaman two times over before watching Captain Marvel again. It was just so boring. Uh, but it is what it is. Let me just go ahead and rate the film because I'm gonna start rambling at this point if I haven't already been. The villains, since it was like a fuck you to the audience, I would say the villains got like an F rating because who were the villains? The Kree were the villains. Why were they the villains? Because they were villains. It really didn't explain it. It really didn't explain it. They lied. Okay, but then you have the villains, the people that the audience were led to believe were the villains, said that, oh yeah, no, we actually did a lot of bad stuff too. So who are the bad guys? Like, why is Captain Marvel against the Kree now when the other group acknowledged that, oh yeah, we did some stuff too. Like we've been fucking people up, but since we're losing, we're not nearly as bad. Is that how it works? Is that how it works? If you're gonna pick a side and determine who the villain is, it's the side who's winning that's the villain. That didn't make any sense to me. Whatever. The CGI was bad. The acting was subpar. Samuel L. Jackson, he carried the film. Brie Larson, this is her like major breakout role, and if you actually watch the film, you'll notice her acting throughout the film get progressively better. And I don't know, because like the beginning of the film, her acting was to me bad. Middle of the film, it gets better, and then towards the end, it's like she's comfortable with the role, and so I think was a good learning experience for her. We'll see how it ends when it comes to Endgame. I'm not looking forward to another Captain Marvel film. Honestly, if one comes out, which the way that it ended most likely will, I'm not gonna watch it. To me, it was just not engaging enough. I didn't care enough to watch this film. When it comes to the score, like the soundtrack, it was really like dumb. It was like sort of like marchy, like a Superman, but like an old Superman kind of sound, and it just didn't hit the ear right. I didn't really care for it. I don't know. As far as Marvel movies go, it's what I expected for the third act. But when it comes to like the overall Marvel series, it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I have a feeling that since I didn't like Infinity War, Endgame will probably fall in the same realm. You also have Spider-Man Far From Home coming out, and that movie looks stupid too. I feel like Marvel and Disney are like, you know what? These sheep, talking about us, are so invested in our films that we can make them piss poor and they will still go out and watch it. And we have Rotten Tomatoes in our back pocket. We'll rate the movies phenomenally, even though it's really like a fucking F score, and they'll go and watch it. So I'm gonna have to watch out for that. I'm gonna have to be very selective of the series I go and see from now on because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 disappointed. And I feel like that's where it started, where all the Marvel movies started going downhill with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I really wasn't a big fan of Thor to begin with, so that one's like an outlier for me. But when it comes to the Avengers: Age of Ultron, that one was significantly like less engaging than the first one. But Captain America: Civil War was actually really good. I actually liked that one, and I think I prefer Captain America to the other franchises in the series, other series in the franchise, because he's more of a detective, like agent type of hero. He doesn't have all these flashy powers, so they have to rely heavily on choreography instead of CGI. And so I think they invest more time in the choreography. The action in these Captain America movies are just better than some of the other films in the series in the franchise. I don't know. Endgame's coming up. They said that Captain Marvel will be there. Okay, I'm sort of missing this. Will I be making Big Brother videos this summer? Cam, I will, but I will tell you that I did have a conversation with Scotty in front of all the other Big Brother hopefuls, and shout out to Scotty, by the way. He's now following me on Twitter. I follow him, he follows me, and I'm actually going to send him this video after it's finished because he hadn't seen Captain Marvel. Scotty, if you made it this far, I'm letting you know now. Wait for the DVD or bootleg it. I mean, I'm not for pirating, but if you want to pirate this film, I'm not going to be mad at you. It's going to make a buttload of money for no reason, only because it is what it is, a Marvel film. But anyway, Cam, not to invalidate you, but time to get back on topic. Captain Marvel was set back in 92, way before all of this happened. And now I understand that at the end of this film, she leaves Earth and the galaxy to help out the aliens that were on the losing side of the war, rebuild and repopulate, whatever. Why is it though that she trusted Nick Fury with the Tesseract? Because the Tesseract is actually what gives her her powers in this film. So if that's the case, why then, if Nick has this beeper to call her, why doesn't he call her saying, "Yo, the Tesseract is getting stolen by this group of alien people that are working for Ronan"? That's something that she would want to know. She even said at the very end of the film, "Don't call me if unless it's an emergency." The Tesseract getting stolen by the species that tried to kill her in this film is something that she would probably want to know. So it makes everything so far from the like Avengers Marvel sort of cinematic universe seem kind of stupid, because if she was always available, and I said this in my last video, if she was always an option to call, why the fuck did they wait so long? She said to call them if it's an emergency. Having half the universe get destroyed, that right there is way past that point. You're way past that point. So, personally, they should have said something else. They should have given her a different line to say, something a little bit more specific, because that generalization of "call me if it's an emergency," they've had several emergencies and they just didn't call her. I don't know. Let the phone's ringing. It's time for me to go. Bye, y'all. And Cam, to answer your question, if I make it on Big Brother, no, I won't be making videos. But if I don't make it on, hell yeah, I'm going to be making videos.